येते का? हं, हं, हं. Good morning, everybody. I'm so sorry. There was some technical issues, some technical glitches. I hope it is. Avi. Morning, everybody. There were some technical glitches, and we had to restart the system. But I hope it is loud and clear now. So let's get back and straight to the agenda. We will be discussing the IT sector and its dynamics thereof. Over the last few weeks, in the initial few seminars and webinars that we've done, we were discussing a lot of macro related issues, a lot of GDP related issues, a lot of issues related to global and Indian macro and micro dynamics as well. The last 2 weeks, we have started dissecting sectors. We started with the oil and gas space, and now we'll be discussing the IT space, because the IT space, in my opinion, is also very, very relevant in market conditions like these. Uh, a lot of sectors, a lot of companies within the sector have reported their numbers, both in the Indian and the global, specifically the American context. And therefore, I think to understand the dynamics of this sector at this point of time is both pertinent and critical as well. A clear disclaimer that we always put out, all the stocks that we'll discuss in this webinar are in relevance and in reference to the sector discussions itself, and it should in any ways not be construed as an investment advice. 5 basic and brief points that we'll be touching upon. Global GDP estimates have got downgraded by a lot of rating agencies. What this clearly indicates is the discretionary spending patterns across industries for the IT sector might actually start tapering off, but what kind of an effect does it actually have is something that we'll put heed to. IT sector also has different subsectors or sub-industries that they cater to, and how these end industries are going to respond in terms of both the pandemic at hand and the expectations in terms of how discretionary spending will play out is clearly going to be something that will create a huge impact from an earnings perspective. The third element, and which is a very critical element for the IT sector, is presidential elections in the United States, because a lot of discretionary spending patterns, specifically during a presidential year, is determined in terms of how flows will happen from the end user industries in terms of discretionary spending, as well as the pandemic that we've got on our hands. Does that defer discretionary spending by a few quarters? And does that lead to an earnings lag for IT companies in general? Is something we'll see. The fourth element is the FANG stocks: Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. These stocks have probably held out pretty well before the pandemic. They're still holding out during the pandemic. And therefore, I think analyzing how these FANG stocks have performed and the commentary in terms of their recent results is something that we will pay heed to as well. And in the end, I think the IT companies on the Indian context, in terms of how the entire scenario is expected to play out from an Indian IT perspective as well. Now, we had discussed this a couple of webinars back in terms of the IMF projections for global growth and global GDP estimates as well. Because of the pandemic, because of the lockdowns that we witnessed across the globe, because there is a standstill in many occupations, in many sectors, which contribute significantly to individual GDPs from an economic perspective, what kind of an impact does that have in terms of free cash flows for these industries, and in turn, how much of that cost optimization does come through or go through in terms of discretionary spending patterns for the IT sector, and that itself can get played out in terms of the spending trends that one can perceive over the next few quarters. To put it very simply, trade tourism and hospitality from a GDP perspective for the United States is close to 14 odd percent. For a lot of the Western economies in Europe, Italy, France, Spain, they are hugely dependent in terms of tourist inflows. They are hugely dependent in terms of hospitality, because once the tourist comes in, I think it is not only the foreign exchange that they are looking at, but it is also the hotels, it is also tourism, which takes a big hit and which has a huge impact in terms of the GDP estimates for these economies. Like we discussed for the oil and gas sector, the pricing of crude is extremely critical for a lot of these OPEC producers. A lot of the non-OPEC producers were majorly dependent on oil as revenues and gas as revenues. And therefore, I think any dip in these prices have a significant impact in terms of the estimated GDP. And if GDP estimates are expected to come down significantly, you can very well assume that the money supply for the economy as a whole, both in terms of M2, M3, actually gets curtailed. It also reduces the spending power, not just from an individual, discretionary individual or a corporate perspective. And therefore, I think the kind of discretionary end spending that happens towards a lot of other activities within the business environment itself start getting rolled back. So in this chart, you can probably see the kind of hit the IMF is projecting FY20 to bring about. So the United States is expected to contract by 6 odd percent. The euro area is expected to contract by 7.5 odd percent. Within the euro area itself, the economies that I was talking about, which are majorly dependent, as I said, on travel, tourism, hospitality, for example, Italy and Spain, higher single digits, close to 10 odd percent. Emerging markets are not expected to take that big a hit, because still they are the export processing economies, as I call them. And as exports start bouncing back slowly but steadily over the next few quarters, their dependency on exports and export related activities should actually help and bail them out. So in that sense, India might still hold out, and China, along with a lot of the other emerging economies within the Asian Pac, to be in a positive terrain. Having said that, the majority of the business for IT companies specifically comes through the Western world, and all the multi-million dollar deals that we talk about actually emerge from this part of the economies as well. And if they are expected to contract, the assumptions that are broadly laid out is that the end discretionary demand and spending can actually get curtailed as well. It's not that the IT spending will come to an absolute halt, but there is a huge possibility that with cost optimization taking place across departments, the IT budgets might also get curtailed because of the slowdown that we feel and witness in the economy over the next few quarters to come. But the IMF is also projecting a very positive picture in terms of FY21 estimates. So their report clearly suggests that there is expected to a V-shaped recovery in terms of the dip that we see in terms of the negative terrain for the GDP estimates. And a lot of economies are expected to bounce back very, very sharply in the next financial year. So all the pent-up demand that gets bottled up this year, the kind of fiscal stimuli that has got announced, the expectations of demand coming back slowly and steadily over the next couple of quarters, and all of this leaving us with a very, very positive momentum to A, ride on a very, very low base on a year-on-year comparison as we enter FY21, and B, I think the expectations in terms of catching up on the lost spending that they've probably done and the lost demand that they probably entailed, and ensuring that it comes back is a given. The second paradigm shift that we are all seeing as we work from home is that data consumption and the use of a lot of applications at play might be the norm and might be something that we should get used to over the next few years. If that is the new normal that all of us are talking about, there is a huge possibility, on the other hand, for a lot of these IT companies, and a lot of these IT companies have forayed into the digital space, cloud computing, IoT, the Internet of Things, and a lot of applications that are probably getting developed for not only the large corporates, the mid-sized corporates, but also small businesses might actually be looking at this space in terms of automation, in terms of digitally enabling their businesses, and therefore I think the IT demand might come back even sharper than what one estimates. Now, if you probably see most of the results and most of the results that we've looked into, a lot of management commentaries that have come through, and a lot of transcripts that we have read, the last 2 to 3 weeks of March, obviously, I think the impact of COVID was felt more or less in India for the last 2 weeks because of the lockdowns. A lot of economies before that had already started initiating lockdowns in their individual economies as well. The uncertainty related to how things will play out in terms of all these facets that I talked about, specifically in terms of the pandemic at play, is a large unknown even at this point of time. Now, IT and a lot of companies shifted remotely. As I said, all of us adjusted very, very quickly to the work from home concept. Urban, semi-urban areas probably adjusted it very, very smartly. A, because of the access to mobile devices, and B, access to better network and data connectivity. So more than 90% of the employees worked remotely is what a lot of leading IT companies had mentioned in their con calls. The business continuity plans, which is an essential fallback that IT companies have, got initiated during this quarter, and it was a seamless transition in terms of almost 90%, a majority of their employees actually working remotely from remote locations. And the consensus was that the client activity was not at all disturbed and that the productivity standards were also maintained. However, the more common point that emerged from a lot of results at play were that a lot of IT companies differed from giving any sort of guidances. So what we are used to in terms of guidance support for IT companies, both from a quarter or in some cases an annualized basis, was just not given. And it was pretty obvious because the near-term challenges, as I mentioned, were very unique and were unknown for a lot of IT players even at this point of time. And what can emerge over the next few months and couple of quarters still remains very, very vague. So as I mentioned, cost optimization is something that got laid out as a focus and a focal point. The other question was what happens in terms of the real estate space that a lot of these IT companies work out of. TCS has clearly mentioned that almost a third of its workforce will start working from home over the next few years. Infosys has given some sort of an iteration that a small portion of its workforce can actually start working from home on remote locations on a more or less permanent basis over the next few years. There has been similar commentary, and we've already seen that a lot of US majors actually have implemented that. So I think a lot of rent negotiations is what we are hearing on the street have already started for a lot of these IT majors. So is that the new normal that we are probably looking out for? Because what we have seen over the last few weeks, and as I mentioned earlier as well, that the productivity element has still got maintained and the efficiency in terms of work delivery from an end client perspective has still got satisfied. The other element in terms of businesses looking at various aspects on how IT can help them. So virtualization, workforce transformation, as I said, cloud computing, IoT, and with all this, the most optimum way to work and the cost optimization at hand, if it has to happen both in terms of employee utilization, which is also a very, very important parameter from an IT sector's perspective, efficiency in terms of work delivery, rent negotiation, which might be a possibility which helps them save on the operating costs, and the fixed cost element as well in terms of either owning their own office spaces, which comes off drastically in their balance sheet, which leaves even greater number of cash flows at the IT company's behest. And where a lot of IT companies, specifically in the Indian context, have categorically mentioned in terms of payback or in terms of the capital efficiency of returning capital back to shareholders. And if all such things are implemented as a new normal over the next few quarters and years, though the adjustment phase on all these aspects might take a couple of quarters, 3 quarters, or maybe even a year, I think that can have a huge say in terms of how the entire sector actually works and functions. The immediate focus over the next couple of quarters is absolutely going to be on how demand comes back, and from an end user perspective, how the discretionary spending plays out. Now, as I said, the various segments that IT companies operate out of, BFSI and retail, along with manufacturing, are the most important segments for any IT company at this point of time. So banking, financial services, for a majority of the top players and even a lot of the mid-cap IT players, are a minimum of 30 to 33 odd percent. In certain and some cases, they might extend and go beyond in certain and some cases, they might extend and go beyond even 40 or 45 odd percent. Now, BFSI is a backbone for every economy globally as well as the Indian context. With the financial services contributing such a huge pie, 1/3 in terms of the revenue contribution for a lot of major players, any impact that the services sector has can have a huge dampening effect in terms of reported revenues. And Indian IT companies also need to understand and maintain the foreign hedge balance, because the translationary incomes happen in dollar terms. So they need to hedge the rupee against the dollar. And therefore, both dollar earnings and the constant currency earnings become extremely important at any given point of time. Now, there are two aspects to the entire sector at play. Banks are expected, even in the Indian context and the US context, to see huge pressures from an asset quality perspective. Insurance as a sector might have a huge pressure because of the claims that can actually come through over the next few quarters as well. So in either of these scenarios, the huge profitability hit that can come through for these sectors can have a profound effect in terms of the spending, and specifically the discretionary spending in terms of their IT budgets. So whether they curtail their spending for the IT budgets for this financial year, and as things normalize over the next couple of quarters, 3 quarters to say the least, and as things start coming back, the spending patterns obviously will get determined in the second half itself. So a lot of US companies have their budgeting norms which are fixed in the quarters that have just gone by. So Q3, Q4 in the Indian context, Q4 in the US context, which is the Jan to March quarter, is where a lot of discretionary budgets are decided. Unfortunately, with the pandemic at play, I think the decision making has got deferred, and now all these companies within these individual sectors will ideally and likely watch out for how their end customer demand is, as I said, what kind of a hit are they expected to take on profitability, and therefore I think to a certain element, some curtailment in IT budgets can be expected to come through. On the other hand, the silver lining also is, as I said earlier, I think a lot of companies who are not serious about their IT spending would actually start looking at IT spending and IT budgeting to be a part and parcel of their entire decision making process. So automation, data mobility, Internet of Things, cloud computing, how can they automate a lot of their internal processes? How can they automate a lot of their external processes? I think all of this will be the need of the hour, because they don't want anything in this sort to probably happen specifically from a small to mid business perspective in the global developed markets or even in the Indian context, to probably miss out on some things which happens in terms of lockdown, and they are not having any access to their business, both from an internal and an external perspective as well. So just as an example, you look at all the major banks that we've laid out and look at their Q1 performance and the consensus miss that they had. So JP Morgan, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley. You look at the earnings hit that they've taken and the kind of consensus miss that they have. So it's a new normal. It's a given that the next couple of quarters will also be equally torrid for a lot of these companies within this sector, and therefore curtailment of budgets is a given. However, I think the bounce back will also happen very, very sharply once all of them have a handle in terms of the wars being over the next few quarters, demand coming back slowly and steadily over the next few quarters, and the need to spend optimally on IT budgets internally, both for the organization and externally for their customers as well, from the development of all these features and characteristics that we are talking about. And therefore, even though discretionary spending might get deferred or delayed or curtailed in this time period, it will bounce back very, very sharply in the next few quarters to come. Again, the more important aspect here is that the presidential elections by October, November will be out of the way, and therefore the other overhang for IT companies on a global scale from a discretionary spending perspective, and even from the euro perspective with the deterioration that we've taken, should start coming back and bouncing back as these economies come back and demand normalizes as well. Retail, as I said, apart from BFSI, is also extremely critical from an IT sector contribution perspective. So it contributes more than 15 to 20 odd percent in certain cases. This sector has also taken a huge hit. So if you probably look at a few of the apparel and fashion chains or the retail chains, as we call it in the US markets, a few of them have actually applied for bankruptcy. JC Penney, for example, has already applied for bankruptcy. Macy's has already given a huge indication that there might be a huge top line miss of almost $1 billion for this financial year to come. Debenhams in the euro space have also given similar indications in terms of credit crunch and probable bankruptcy or liquidation issues at their end. So all these major players are witnessing huge amount of pain because of what we have witnessed over the past few weeks and months. Now they will take time to come back, whether they get bailed out or they actually apply for bankruptcy, which a few of these cases, as I've said, have already done, is going to have a profound effect in terms of retail spending. And as I said, in the case of BFSI, even retail, whether it's non-grocery, apparel, fashion, they have taken a huge hit and they will take a slow and steady time to come back. Manufacturing is one more sector which almost accounts for 12-15% in terms of a lot of large IT companies' balance sheets. Manufacturing is one sector which a lot of global economies, a lot of central governments have cognizantly understood that they cannot keep this out for a long time, and therefore in the amidst of lockdowns getting eased, a lot of manufacturing processes, in lieu of social distancing norms being maintained, shall come back very, very strongly, because that will run the wheels of the economy. And therefore, to understand the entire processes and how to optimize that, a lot of manufacturing companies, in my opinion, will also be looking at information technology to probably help them understand how they can do their processes better and in a more profitable fashion, and with a cost optimization angle and degree as well. Energy utility will be hit hard because of the low energy prices. We've actually discussed that, and all the different elements in terms of the commodities at play, crude, gas, LNG, everything has come down very, very sharply. The contraction is more on the demand side rather than the supply side, which basically means that how demand is expected to come back in terms of the consumption trends is clearly going to define this space. But yes, this space is clearly under doldrums at this point of time and will take a little longer to recover unless we've got a V-shaped recovery, which probably looks like a huge, on a probability basis, to be the least factors at this point of time. Travel hospitality, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, are under severe stress, and even if norms are lifted out, I think a lot of people, both individual perspective and even from a corporate business perspective, will still be very, very skeptical in terms of both leisure as well as business travel, at least for the next few months. As things start normalizing, and we all hope that a vaccine probably comes through over the next few quarters, and if that happens, there will be a huge hope in terms of the industry turning back to normal. However, I think, as I said, with a lot of economies dependent on travel tourism and the GDP hit that is expected to take place in terms of all these factors at play, and because their cash flows are going to be extremely, extremely low, I think the kind of spending trends that we expected this industry to show up every quarter or even on an annualized basis might actually be very, very soft. And therefore, I think there might be some curtailment in terms of IT budget spends for this sector out of all the other sectors at play. Communication, extremely critical. And what we've seen from work from home, all of us stuck at our homes rather than workplaces, the data consumption trends have gone up significantly. Though revenue from the segment is relatively less for a few of the major players, I think a few players like Tech Mahindra do have significant revenues coming in from the telecom space, while the rest does come from the enterprise space, which, as I said, over the aforesaid sectors that I mentioned, depends on the trends in terms of discretionary spending coming back over the next few quarters. Now, whether the 5G rollouts happen in a very constrained manner because of the stress that a lot of these players individually are going through, and they don't have the financial muscle or the operating leverage to bid for 5G spectrum, to bid for 5G equipment, and the issues that Huawei is going through, specifically in terms of the US-China conflict, which is very, very intense at this point of time. I think the 5G usage, both from a spectrum perspective, and if that gets delayed, even from an equipment procurement perspective, clearly gets delayed, because I think the capital allocation and the cash flow constraints that a lot of players have, they just don't have the financial muscle to bid for 5G at this point of time, because their balance sheets are already leveraged to a larger extent. They just cannot take load in terms of adding more leverage to their balance sheets. The other obvious choice is that a lot of ARPUs, or the average revenue per user, might actually start going up because both of data consumption and because of the minimalistic number of players that exist in the market, and because they have to protect their EBITDA and their profitability, and therefore rebundling of packs, new data packs coming through, and expectations of ARPUs actually improving so that they can protect their balance sheets and their cash flows might be a new normal. There might be some relative curtailment in terms of IT budgets for this sector. But again, I think the need of the hour will be to cater to all the subscribers that are moving from voice to data. And therefore, I think the IT spending, even if it gets deferred, as I said, might come back very, very sharply, because the sector probably needs that. Manufacturing, as I said, across industries, it will within manufacturing obviously hamper auto and the aerospace industry in general, but I think the other industries would probably come back very, very sharply. The quarter gone by and the quarter to come, we've heard a lot of management across the manufacturing space actually talk about supply side issues, logistic issues that they've faced at their end. Therefore, I think supply chain management and what kind of IT processes can they deploy in terms of the supply chain ecosystem itself, I think there are huge opportunities within this space, as I said. This is one space that one should watch out for. Individual companies, as I've mentioned on this slide, have a significant say from this space as well. So BFSI dominates, retail manufacturing dominates, Communication in a few exceptional cases like Tech Mahindra dominates more than the others. But all these sectors individually, as I said, might have pain and pocket points within them for the next couple of quarters. But in the new normal that we are, and with the assumptions of business expected to return to normalcy, and the spending patterns that need to get displayed from a business perspective, and with US elections and the presidential elections out of the way by Q3 in our context, after the next couple of quarters, IT spending should come back in a normalized fashion as well. Now, a lot of companies, as I said, have deferred their guidance norms. So the guidance that they used to give, both from a next quarter perspective and an annualized perspective, actually gone deferred. What these companies are also looking at, as I said in my opening remarks, is a lot of cost optimization which actually start happening. Whether you're looking at rents being renegotiated, office spaces which were bought out probably not being required, larger cash flows on that aspect as well. So when top line is expected to remain soft, both in terms of conversion from a balance sheet perspective as well as a cash flow perspective, is clearly going to affect the overall earnings dynamics. The second element is the on-site costs. The lower tier expenses will start happening, which is cost savings on the IT company's budget perspective. The marketing spend starts reducing. They've actually deferred a few wage hikes, though I think a lot of companies have still maintained that the processes will continue. Hiring has got lowered, and whatever natural attrition is happening in their books still continues without work getting affected. Utilization levels, which is a very important parameter, as I said, has remained between 80 to 90% across large to mid-cap IT companies, and the bench strength is sufficient enough to take care of a lot of orders that are already there, which can get executed over the next few quarters. Obviously, I think the rupee depreciation, it acts as a tailwind, but a lot of IT companies hedge their exposure to the dollar. So even if the rupee has depreciated significantly against the dollar, the tailwind gets accrued to a certain element in a certain proportion as well. From a margin perspective, the EBIT margins expected to hold up, and though no margin guidances have been given, I think if the top line is expected to remain reasonable, because the order books, as I said, are very, very strong for a lot of these companies. They've still had reasonable order wins even in the quarter to come. With all these order wins and the order book at hand, even if order books start depleting over the next couple of quarters, and what we've typically seen for this sector as a whole is that Q3, Q4, specifically from the areas that I talked about, the Euro and the US, they've still remained pretty stable and strong. So Q1, Q2 is a typical weak quarter for IT sector, and with the existing order books that they've got on hand, the digital revenues, which are almost 35 to 50% in certain cases, which is also a margin lever for a lot of these companies, they can actually start working on these orders from an offshore perspective, which is very, very effective, and a few of their on-site workers which are actually there, which can also effectively enable and give support and thus lay efficacy to the operations from an entire supply chain perspective for an IT sector's delivery standards. So the IT order books should bail them out over the next few quarters till the order book starts normalizing, as I said, for a lot of these sectors. The depreciation of the INR against the dollar, and a lot of companies work in different geographical areas. So there is a lot of cross-currency hit that happens. Therefore, just looking at IT companies' revenues from a dollar context is not right. You have to look at IT companies' revenues from a constant currency concept, and what happens in terms of the exposure that they've had, specifically say from the Euro area. A few companies work from the Australian subcontinent as well, and the Asian context as well. So the constant currency growth has been maintained, though no guidance has been given. Yet, I think all these factors should entail that the constant currency growth remains reasonable. The EBIT margin remains reasonable as well. And their order books, along with the efficiency on the utilization of their bench, remain stable enough. And the other cost optimization angles lends earnings support. Now, the US election year and Nifty IT has behaved in a very unique fashion. What we've seen in the past presidential elections for the US markets is that the IT sector actually reports a negative earnings terrain. Why is that? Because a lot of companies which operate out of the US landscape, US context, and we've seen that in our Indian context as well. Whenever there is a general election in that year, a lot of corporate capex, specifically on the private side, actually gets pulled back because they actually want to see what kind of political developments are taking place. So is the incumbent government going to come back? Because the kind of policies that they have adopted, they might have a far greater going concern concept in terms of consistency of delivery from a regulatory perspective, from an environment on the macroeconomic perspective. So it's an ideal wait and watch perspective. It's not that the corporate capex on the private side gets curtailed to zero, but it gets pulled back. That is also what happens typically for a lot of companies operating in the US landscape. They actually start curtailing a part of their budgeted spends and a budgeted expenditure and rolling it back till they get clarity in terms of what directions are getting laid out. So leaving aside 2004, which was obviously a huge multi-year bull cycle run for not just our markets, but for the global context as well. 2008, I leave that as an exception as well because we were in the midst of the global financial crisis. But every election since, I think the IT sector has probably reacted more to the US presidential elections in terms of wait and watch mode. Couple that up, this time around we've got the pandemic as well. Therefore, I think our companies, our order books that our companies set out of, the kind of technological expertise and the niche that we probably have in terms of a lot of sectors that we cater to and the niche deliveries that we have adopted for a lot of end user industries. And because we dominate this services space at this point of time, I think the dominance might very well continue. The second element is the large delivery standards that we've got. And though there are a lot of US tech companies at play, which I'll obviously be discussing in the next few slides as well, what actually goes through in terms of the cost aspects from an outsourcing perspective for the US companies is significantly higher. Yes, we've got companies like Accenture, Cognizant also operating along with the others that I said, but there is sufficient enough of discretionary spending that still exists, and the kind of delivery standards that our IT companies have displayed along with cost efficiencies, I think we should still stand out in terms of the global context and the service industry delivery that it can still deliver over the next few years. Now, as I said, the FANG stocks, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, have done exceptionally well. So even in our Indian context, it is the Ritik stocks which have done well. The HDFCs, the Reliances, the Infosys, the TCSs, the Kotaks. The similar story has played out from an index perspective. And though the broader markets have largely underperformed from a couple of years return perspective, these FANG stocks have held on to their own. Now the chart that you're seeing is our proprietary software that we use. But look at Facebook and look at the earnings that it has delivered quarter after quarter, year after year. So exceptional set of numbers. Even for this quarter gone by, yes, it was expected that the quarter might be a little bit soft. It turned out that way. But look at the addiction and look at the stickiness that Facebook has through its platform and through its various subsidiaries as well. WhatsApp, Instagram, whatever you call it. Generates exceptional high revenue through ads. It has a super normal high exposure to small businesses. It is extremely well positioned. Look at the kind of cash that it has on its hand. 60 billion odd dollars. The short-term investments, 10% of its market cap. And though it took a knock in the market fall, the bounce back was equally sharp because they are also innovating quite significantly. And innovation is a must for IT companies, not just from the expectation of delivery standards that they're expected to meet out, but also from the end user perspective and the end customer perspective, who wants innovative mechanisms that they can probably put out. So exceptional performer. In the bottom of the screen, you can probably look at the numbers that this company has delivered quarter after quarter. Amazon. I think this company is present in every probably sphere of our daily life. There is not one aspect that this company wants to get behind. So whether you're talking about what they deliver in terms of the IT delivery standard, Amazon Prime, the delivery in terms of video sharing, streaming as well. Amazon delivery, the grocery delivery, and what kind of a delivery app mechanism they've probably got globally as well as in the Indian context. In fact, you probably look at the expectations and how Amazon stores have remained open, even in terms of this resilience and in terms of the pandemic at play, it largely remained unaffected. Yes, there will be weaknesses adopted, but the weakness in terms of reported earnings will be far lesser compared to the other sectors at play. And they're probably virtually getting into everything: cloud, cyber security, gaming, delivery, movie streaming. So I think a unique company, exceptional numbers, and look at the performance that this company has delivered in the US markets. Apple, one of the other FANG stocks. All of us know by their phones, right? But the kind of innovation that these guys get, either through their new models that they introduce or otherwise, I think it's exceptional. The 5G iPhone, 50% of the revenue comes in from the iPhone sales. And the 5G iPhone is expected to get launched pretty shortly as well. Services is 22% of the revenue. And what we read through in terms of transcripts is that that segment itself is expected to grow significantly at 50 to 80%. So one can imagine the kind of growth that can come through for each of these business segments. And therefore, I think if you probably look at the gross margins for their services segment is 65%, but this is one segment that this company is probably leaving their eyes upon. And the product segment is just 30% margin, but it is still a 30% gross margin business. All in all, I think the company does see a 10% revenue growth in the next couple of years, with services expected to grow far, far faster compared to their products page. And the services contribution can be very, very huge in the next few quarters, which can give a huge support in terms of their earnings outlay as well. Netflix, and I shouldn't be saying more. Apart from whatever hours we give for work, I think the other time periodicities and the other time is probably spent in terms of watching movies, binging on serials, and the kind of content that these guys are bringing about on their OTT platform is exceptional. Yes, Amazon also is present, so I think I've already discussed what Amazon has done, but what Netflix has done is exceptional. Are there competitors? Oh, absolutely yes. Disney Plus Watch launched a few months back. HBO Max is expected to launch in the coming few days. Peacock from Comcast is expected to launch as well. But when all these players are coming through, you can understand the kind of marketplace and the market size that is available. And ultimately, I think it's all going to be about content. Netflix has delivered exceptional content so far, and it will continue to deliver exceptional content, in my opinion. The kind of users and the stickiness of these users on this content is exceptional. I know so many people who start their binge serials on a Friday night and they continue that till Sunday afternoon. And it's very, very sticky because you just can't get over it. You need to see the next episode and the next and the next unless it gets over. Yes, the earnings did take a hit because of competition, high debt, and the pandemic effect. But again, I think it's expected to take and normalize going forward as well. So this has become an exceptional kind of a stock which has done exceptionally well. Alphabet, all of us know Google. Alphabet is Google's parent, and therefore, what this stock has delivered and what we are all used to, right? We still say if you need to search something, Google kar lo. That has become the norm. That has become the new normal, and that has been the case over the last few years, which will still keep on happening over the next few quarters and years as well. There have been other browsers which have come through, other browsers which might have taken some amount of market share from Google, from the other subsegments that Alphabet also operates out of. But I think this is exceptional. However, for Alphabet, YouTube and cloud business are the major growth drivers. So all of us cognizant of Google, but YouTube and cloud is something which is exceptionally doing well from a top line and an earnings perspective. The second element obviously is Google Cloud, which is at the third position. YouTube is significantly under monetized. So there is a huge scope for a huge monetization scope to actually come through. And even on their cloud business, it actually expects to become the number one cloud business provider by 2023. So over the next 3 years, the kind of advancements that they will bring is going to be exception. So all three businesses ensure that Alphabet will stay there right at the top. Did get corrected, did have some element in terms of an earnings impact because of the pandemic. But again, I think look at the quality that they've got. YouTube, cloud computing, Google. You can't ask for more. Again, the AWS part is the number one part. $200 billion cloud market, followed by Azure. So what I'm also saying is that these companies are obviously adhering to all these elements in terms of the market probabilities and the market opportunities that they've got. And our Indian companies also stand a chance to take a small pie out of this over the next few quarters as well. Therefore, I think the opportunities, as I said, are vast. The opportunities, as I said, are humongous for the entire sector as a whole, and even for the IT companies, even if they take a small pie out of all this. Our own companies, and obviously if you take into context how the results were and what the commentaries were. So all the companies are cash rich. There are no two ways about it. Infosys had $3.6 billion in terms of cash and cash equivalents at the end of quarter four. As I said, I think the order wins still remained extremely robust. They had 12 large deal wins, 7 from the US, 5 from the Eurozone as well. And with this, I think the order book that they probably had for the entire year was in excess of $8 to $9 billion odd dollars. And the overall order book is even far higher, which means that the revenue protection from the order book at hand and the execution that they will continue to do in spite of weak quarters that are expected to come through amidst the pandemic and the delivery expected both offshore and partially on site should hold out for them. As I said, constant currency becomes extremely critical because of the multiple geographies that they operate out of. There was a 6.4% growth in constant currency. Digital, as I said, becomes extremely important because digital delivery ensures high margin and they ensure cost optimization, which means that the EBITs are protected. Utilization still stays strong, as I said. It stays anywhere between 80 to 90 odd percent for a lot of players. And at 83.5 actually declined because of the pandemic. But I think the transition that all of us have done, specifically in terms of the business continuity plans, shall work out and the consistency should be maintained. No guidance, as I said, but if you probably look at the contribution that comes through, as I said, BFSI 32 odd percent, retail 15, manufacturing 10, and high tech 8. Energy might be one sector which might lag. Therefore, I think the constant currency effect might remain a little bit subdued. From an earnings perspective, yes, it has come off, as you see on the left hand side of the table on the product that we display. So this is our product chart. This is the evaluation page that we've got on our product. And the EPS rating and the earnings outlook is an extremely important integral component in terms of analyzing the stocks from a fundamental perspective. Yes, last quarter it has tapered off a tad bit, but it was for obvious reasons. You're entering into weak quarters for the sector as a whole from a Q1, Q2 perspective. That is expected to remain a little sticky from earnings perspective as well. So the EPS strength is good. That's a good EPS rank because I think the earnings have still held up compared to other sectors which are probably a little bit under the cloud at this point of time. Yes, there will be near-term concerns, as I said, which is getting played out in terms of the price volume action, but the institution holding still remains strong. So if you look at the middle tab in terms of, if you look at this tab, you're probably seeing the institution holding actually improve. Again, cash-rich balance sheet, so they are not highly leveraged. So the economic facing problems for a lot of leverage companies, promoter pledges not happening in this case because the cash flow generation remains strong. And these companies are adaptable. Therefore, I think the cost optimization programs should work out beautifully in terms of the EBIT profile for all of them. In the similar breath, TCS, the EBIT margins improved. And clearly, I think they already have put in place the mechanism to ensure that the EBIT margins get protected. So at 25.1%, I think exceptional EBIT margins reported. Exceptional deal wins reported as well. So the $5.3 billion of deal wins that North America reported was exceptional. BFSI is close to 32 odd percent. Retail 16 again for TCS. Manufacturing is 11 odd percent. Life sciences, like in the case of Infi, is almost 8 to 10 odd percent as well. BFSI is still a major component in terms of the sectoral contribution. That is expected to remain weak. And that is, I think, something which has got gestated by the markets and by the street as well. But with the order book that they've got, and they've got a massive order book that they need to execute. So as they execute this order book over the next few quarters, and as I've maintained for this sector as a whole, I think because of the huge order books that they've got, that should bail them out in this difficult time periodicities, both from a US presidential election and the pandemic perspective, where discretionary spending because of cash flow issues at end users get curtailed. But with cost optimization and expectations of order execution at hand, I think constant currency revenues, EBIT margin profile should get maintained, and this should be relatively better than a lot of industries which can actually feel the pinch and hit far more over the next couple of quarters. Similar to Infosys, the earnings did take a hit in TCS's case as well. As you see, the last couple of quarters, the earnings has been very, very profound. Though the institution holding has remained extremely robust, they have still maintained their confidence because they are large players who are clearly maintaining their market leadership positions. Both Infosys and TCS also have the capital allocation programs, as I said, so returning capital to shareholders in terms of dividends, and their policy in terms of cash payouts, dividend payouts, are still expected to continue on a significantly high scale. So I think investors are rest assured in terms of stability from the dividend yield perspective and the cash flow generation perspective, which is missing in a lot of cases. It's a reasonable EPS rank. The buyer demand is good and the stock is now probably consolidating. So in market conditions like these, IT along with pharma and to a certain extent consumer staples do form part and parcel in terms of classically being played out as stocks where the earnings hit might be lower or might be actually better in terms of efficiencies compared to a lot of industries as play, specifically BFSI, specifically manufacturing, specifically a lot of the economic high beta correlated sectors, including travel, tourism, hotels, hospitality. So few sectors that these companies cater to might get a hit, but then I think the order books, as I've maintained and I've reiterated, should bail them out. Wipro, I think it's one of the weakest links within the entire top tier names. It has always been underperforming, not just from a price perspective, but also in terms of the delivery perspective. I think the major reason, apart from the BFSI exposure, also is their exposure in terms of energy, utilities, health, and the consumer business unit. So I think they've clearly been lagging in terms of their delivery guidances. They've clearly been lagging in terms of what has happened in terms of the expected revenue growth. Order books are reasonable, but what happens in terms of delivery is something that they are lagging about. They did receive reasonable order books. The management, as we all believe and presume and assume, feel that there will be huge demand coming in from all their user industries that they cater to. But it has largely delivered on the lower side when it comes to numbers. So the EBIT margin has contracted even for the quarter gone by. The only silver lining is that digital revenues, like for other companies, have gone up significantly, which is a huge plus. IT services revenue is a very critical and integral component for Wipro. That has grown very marginally. And when comparisons are drawn within the large IT players and Wipro, you can probably see that they have been under delivering in terms of a lot of these aspects at play. Again, like the other companies, not a significant impact in terms of guidance expectations. But largely, again, I think the exposures that all of them have to the developed world, the presumptions from an earnings hit is expected in weak quarters to ensure and follow. Earnings have been very volatile, as you see in the data graph that I put out. And again, I think this data graph is our product itself, MarketSmith India. So everything gets displayed in terms of the fundamental parameters on the left that we've got. There is a details page or a details tab which comes through, which tells you all the fundamental aspects that you need to do and understand. There is a checklist tab. So all the key parameters that you're seeing on the top of the tab, the EPS rating, the master score, has a lot of fundamental attributes attached to that, which the product has gone through and done automatically in an algo way to come out with the rank that it has. And obviously it's got the technical tabs on the evaluation tab on the right hand side that you're seeing on the charts in terms of how the averages and how the stock is moving. How the institution holding is happening is the left hand chart, where we have clearly pointed out that there is an increase in institutional sponsorship. All these companies also have a unique parameter because their cash flows and their profitability remains extremely strong and extremely robust. The reported return on equity remains extremely good compared to a lot of the commodity and the cyclical plays which report or have weak ROEs, specifically in business downturns and weak macro environment like we're witnessing at this point of time. So the top line has been okay. However, I think the bottom line has been very volatile for Wipro. Therefore, I think the earnings profile has been very volatile. Therefore, the EPS strength, as you see on the top left hand corner, is not as strong compared to an Infosys or a TCS. and therefore the under delivery, as I said, both from a price and an earnings perspective. HCL Tech, again, strong growth, both organically and inorganically. So the acquisitions that they've done, the organic growth or the growth that they can deliver on their own is expected to remain very, very strong. The management has also guided that EBIT margins will stay strong and they might be between 19.5 to 20.5%. They did took over rather the IBM business, the IP business of IBM. So there were some transition issues over the last couple of quarters, but they have not largely normalized at this point of time. So the organized growth in constant currency terms should come back to normal. And the inorganized growth, with all the acquisitions that they've done, should also be normalizing over the next couple of quarters, which basically means that the CC growth or the constant currency growth should be between 14.5 to 15.5% on a consistent basis. Like in the case of its peers, it did add on significantly in terms of new order wins. $100 million order wins is not a small feat, and a lot of these companies have actually done that. So I think this should bail them out in the weak quarters to come and in a weak macro environment situation, both globally and locally as well. Transformational deal, the 14 that they signed, 13 are under transition and 90% of them were closed. So I think the execution of all these multi-dollar transformational deals won over the past few quarters should start getting delivered. And as that delivery starts happening, I think the constant currency and the EBIT guidance, because of cost optimization, because of the offshore element, because of the digital element at play, should remain robust and strong as well. Again, as I said, there is no issues in terms of cash on IT companies' balance sheets. So net cash stood at $1.5 million. And though there might be a decline in revenues, as I've indicated for the sector as a whole, I think the second half, with all the factors basically largely expected to be behind us, there can be stable growth, which means that there can be consistent numbers compared to this financial year for this sector for the next financial year as well, and a huge improvement in the coming financial year with expectations of IT budgeting normalizing. Now, the earnings has remained extremely strong for HCL Tech. The top line growth has remained strong. As I said, the end user industry and the industries that they cater to, right, on the right hand pie chart that you see, those have remained extremely strong as well for the sector as a whole, for the company as a whole, and therefore it should bail them out. The second element in terms of margins and the growth parameters and the dividend payouts that they give out, I think they should remain strong as well. So I think the EPS strength, the EPS rating that we've got remains extremely good for HCL Tech. That is getting reflected on the bottom side. So the consistent strong earnings and sale performance is expected to continue, which gets reflected in the EPS rank and the strength, which is on the left hand corner of the evaluation tab. And this product beautifully displays that. On the right hand side, on the left hand side, again, if you look at the number of funds, so if you probably look at the number of funds, they have actually gone up. And on the right hand side, if you look at the evaluation page, look at the technical parameters. So this is one concept that I want to tell you as well. You can see a lot of blue dots here on the chart itself. So on the technical page that we've got, this is forming a pattern which is automatically recognized by our software itself. What it also does is, this blue dot actually indicates that the RS rating or the relative strength that this stock has compared to the index and its peers has reached its nadir, which means it is doing exceptionally well in terms of its RS rating, and the number of blue dots that get accumulated over a short period of time in the next few days or weeks is a good indication that the stock is holding out. Even if volumes that you see on the bottom part are very large, the selling volumes that you see are also very large. I think the stock has retained its and held above its moving averages. The blue dots is an indication that the RS rating is extremely strong for this stock. It's reached its all-time high, or there is a sufficient amount of evidence to reflect and exhibit that a strong base pattern from a technical perspective is being formed. So out of all the stocks that we've discussed, I think the number of blue dots that are getting accumulated are extremely strong and critical for HCL Tech. The earnings, the top line growth has been extremely strong and has been maintained in higher double digits. The institution holding has improved. The EPS rank and the EPS strength is an extremely critical component from our CanSlim and William O'Neill's ratings methodology on the fundamental scale. That is a superb rating of over 90, and therefore I think even from value investors perspective, I think it meets most of the criteria. So I think from a delivery perspective, I think this stock has it all. Tech Mahindra, again, as I said, 40% comes from telecom, almost 15-16% from BFSI. So I think both these sectors are going through pain points at this point of time. Like in the case of Wipro, the IT services revenue is extremely critical for Tech Mahindra, and that reduced quarter on quarter. However, the EBIT margin took a huge knock, but that was because of the pandemic and because of the impact in terms of the CSR inclusion. Revenue is going to get impacted, as I said, the EBIT margins, but should normalize going forward. But what developments take place, as I said, a lot of deferment on the capital expenditure side might happen on the 5G front. Therefore, I think the next few months and quarters will be extremely critical because a large component, as I said, 40% comes in from the telecom space. And if IT budgets get slashed for this segment, at least for the next few quarters, that might have some say. However, I think the order book is quite reasonable for Tech Mahindra as well. So the contribution in terms of the geographical exposure, like for the other players, still remains extremely high. Like in the case of Wipro, the top line has been consistent or growing reasonably, but the earnings or bottom line has been very, very volatile. Therefore, I think the kind of EPS strength or the EPS rating that we've got remains very, very patchy. Institution holdings, though I think the number of funds have gone down, the shares, I think the reallocation has happened. However, I think because of the volatility in terms of cash flows, the ROEs, though I think above 17%, more to 18-19%, might come under some amount of pressure. So I think clearly, I think that stress is being seen on the evaluation page, and the stock clearly is below moving averages. Now, before I move to questions, I'll try to answer a few of the questions if you have. But anything that happens in terms of the mid-cap IT space, and I did not cover that here categorically, but mid-cap IT also has given fabulous set of numbers. Again, I think the advantageous part for mid-cap IT companies is that the kind of order wins that they have. Large cap IT companies depend on order wins in excess of $50 million, $100 million, $25 million. And therefore, the bucketing in terms of these order book wins becomes extremely critical for them. For the mid-cap IT companies, the order book size anywhere between $1 million to $10 million with exceptional cases of higher order ticket wins. Again, I think the diversification across sectors is very, very profound for these companies. Though few of these companies, like NIT Tech as an example, has an exposure towards travel and hospitality, has an exposure towards insurance. So those sectors, as I said, might have capital allocation issues because of the issues that they're facing at this point of time. But again, I think the order books that they've got is very, very reasonable at this point of time. And again, a lot of companies, as I've said, will feel the need of the hour to innovate. So once the next 2-3 quarters are done and dusted with, we're going to see increased allocations happening in terms of digital spending, the need of the hour in terms of automizing a lot of their internal and external processes as well. Therefore, I think a lot of these IT companies would find space. Even the mid-cap IT companies will not lose out because a lot of large IT companies do not look at deal wins of $1 to $5 million because it's too time and cost consuming from their perspective, and it perfectly fits the book to bill for a lot of these mid-cap IT companies at play because they've got the necessary resources that can deliver. They've got the entire model which is absolutely placed upon adapting to and catering to these industries across time periodicities. And therefore, I think mid-cap IT companies with their niche offerings should also have a huge say. A lot of companies also did in their management commentaries indicate, as I've said, likewise for the large companies that Q1, Q2 might remain soft. But again, I think utilization levels holding up, EBIT margins holding up because digital revenues have also improved significantly for mid-cap IT companies, and because they are very, very agile, because they'll be very, very smart to adapt because of their smaller workforce and deliver even faster to their smaller clients. I think the smaller clients would also like and prefer that. So it's a matter of time that things normalize, and therefore I think sector will largely remain in focus. So I'll try and answer a few of your questions. I'll take a time for a minute or two if you've got any questions that need to get stacked up. Just take 30 odd seconds. Questions are still stacking up, so I'll try and answer a few of them. Yeah. So Shrish Nagpal had a question. How do you find patterns programmatically and how reliable it is? Shrish, so I think we've been, William O'Neill as an organization has been in this field for the last 50 years. In the US markets, we've developed systems, algos, automated pattern recognition systems, which gets displayed to our products, as I said. And we've replicated that through our products in Marketsmith India. Obviously, we are new in the Indian markets, but we've been here for the last 4 to 5 years. But the program is designed in such a way that it takes into account all the aspects in terms of the relevant data points. So there are multiple data points that are taken both fundamentally and technically. Specifically on the fundamental scale, the EPS rating that I talked about, the earnings growth that I talked about, the ROE profile that I talked about, the top line growth that I talked about, the EBIT margin perspective, the ROE perspective. All these elements are taken into account, and they're all taken into account automatically from the data feeds that we get through. On the evaluation tab or the charts that I was showing, whether it's the FANG stocks or the Indian IT stocks that I displayed, there I think the chart recognition happens automatically because we've got a system, and that's a proprietary system that we've developed. Therefore, the manual bias reached goes out completely. The software does the recognition part itself. You probably need to recognize how the elements are getting stacked up. As an element, I think I do Cancelim educational webinars as well. They are paid webinars, but it's very nominal. We're planning to hold one on the coming Saturday as well. So, a request to all you guys, if you intend or are wanting to attend one, I think next Saturday is one where we're having this paid one. It is extremely reliable because it's worked extremely well in the last 50 years. It's worked extremely well if you can identify that pattern, uh, which obviously gets displayed on the screen itself. And yes, I think we are capital conservative investors as well. So I think we stick by rules. So I think rule-based investing becomes extremely critical. Gaurav Verma has a question. How competitive Indian IT companies are with respect to other countries' competitions? So Gaurav, clearly as I mentioned, and this was my entire perspective, why I wanted to put out the FANG stocks along with our IT stocks and exceptional mid-cap IT companies as well, which have delivered very good and strong and robust set of numbers. Now, individually, all these companies are into different business segments. Now, what happens from an US perspective, and as I said, the Amazon AWS, for example, I think it's a $200 billion cloud computing that you're probably talking about. And no one company can probably adhere to that. The second element is also that there is a lot of risk profiling or diversification that happens even from fortune companies. So no fortune companies, no companies which are even in the mid-tier segment, or all companies which probably give order wins beyond 50 to $100 billion. I think they ideally try to bifurcate companies in terms of giving out order books. So they are reasonably assured that the delivery in terms of different projects that they are having on hand gets delivered with all companies which have got niche expertise in these elements. The second element is in terms of mid-cap IT companies, and as I said, a lot of small businesses which are having discretionary spending between $1 million to $5 million or dollars. Lot of large IT companies do not pay attention to that because it's very time and cost consuming. Therefore, I think these mid-cap IT companies actually also rule the roost. Some of these companies can take a hit, as I said, because of the exposure that they've got, but the order book that they've got should bail them out. So we are very competitive in the sense that our labor cost arbitrage is comparatively better compared to the US competitors, be in terms of the delivery at hand, in terms of innovation. I think we are at par with a lot of global companies. In fact, a lot of Indians are working in global companies. You are aware of that, right? A lot of our programmers are working for US IT companies as well. So I think we stack up pretty well. So I think the Indian IT company space, and as a contributor to the services revenue from a macro perspective, should hold out pretty well because we are very competitive, and I think we will maintain that competitive edge in spite of global competition. A few of the queries have come on individual stocks, so I'll refrain from answering that. But Devendra, I think you asked your view on LTTS. Shyam Prasad has asked the view on Birlasoft, LTI. I think if you can leave your mail IDs, what I'll do is I'll have my team get back to you ASAP on this and what we feel on this as well. Yeah. So I can just give you a brief. So Sumit, Devendra, I think what mid-cap IT companies have done. So LTTI, NIT Tech. As I said, I gave an example of NIT Tech. It has significant exposure to travel tourism and insurance as well. Now, both these segments are the foremost sectors which will get hit in terms of the economic activity as a brunt on the expected earnings. Therefore, I think there might be some pain, but the management commentaries, both in transcript and their con calls, were pretty confident that whatever they are catering to and the top 10 customers' contribution in terms of their overall revenue pie is very well diversified. So there might be some lag that can happen in terms of fresh orders, but that is the case, as I said, for Q1, Q2 generally. But generally, I think the bounce back should happen very smartly in the second half post Q3. Until that point of time, I think the order books are very reasonably placed, which means that if they execute their order books well, the constant currency in top line should be reasonable. The EBIT margin profile should be reasonable because digitalization has become a huge component along with other cost optimization measures that they have taken. And therefore, I think mid-cap IT space individually also should hold up. So I think you can't paint the brush that only large caps will do well. Both of them have their unique niche capabilities. Some large caps, as I mentioned in my presentation, might underperform. Similar breadth, some mid caps might underperform, but some mid caps might actually hold up. Some companies reported fabulous set of numbers. So I think most of the IT companies did a fabulous job in the quarter gone by. Mindtree, NIT Tech, LTI, I think fabulous set of numbers that they reported. So individually, I think to answer your precise queries, Sumit, Devendra, even Shyam Prasad, I think we will get that through. Just put your mail IDs through. So I've given you a brief in terms of how that mid-cap sector looks through, and therefore individually stock queries will get answered on that mail because I think I'll give you a complete profile on your queries, which will be very difficult for me to answer on Facebook Live. So the complete query answer or the complete answer to your queries from all the parameters that I discussed that our software throws up, right, will be displayed. So please put in your mail over the next few minutes. So Veer Singh has put in a query. Veer Singh has put in a query on the next date for the webinar for the paid premium members. Veer Singh ji, I think it is expected next Saturday. So I'll confirm, my marketing team will confirm that date to you. But again, it's a 4-hour webinar that I have. So ensure that you take those 4 hours out on the coming Saturday. Rinku has asked a question on how banking sector will be. Rinku, I think we will focus on IT. Next Saturday, I'm planning to take the banking sector up completely because a couple of results are expected of the banking sector from the mid-cap private space. So let those results come through. Why I took IT sector this time round was almost 90-95% results of the IT sector are out, and we've got a large picture which has come through, the big picture from a lot of management transcripts. So please log on, Rinku, next Saturday, and all of you as well. I will be taking over the banking sector in detail. So Deepesh Parekh has a question, particular mid-cap IT companies seeking growth. Deepesh, again, as I said, as I mentioned, I think a few companies for the mid-cap IT is paid exceptional numbers. However, I think the detailed commentary, if you put your mail ID, we will put it through, like I've said for the others as well. Indrajit has a question on the long-term impact for tech. Indrajit, what happens with tech is that communication segment, which is the telecom segment, is 40% in terms of top line, 60% is enterprise. Now each of these segments goes through their cyclicality. Now enterprise might very well hold up, which basically means that 60% of the revenues are definitely going to hold up. Now, because of the disruption of the pandemic, the 5G capital allocation has gone array. So in a disarray. So what has happened is uh, that entire thesis of 5G in terms of 5G outlay, in terms of infrastructure outlay, spectrum bidding, might actually get delayed and deferred by a few quarters. Therefore, I think the kind of impact it can have, a relevant impact for Tech Mahindra, they have a reasonable order book that they still need to deliver. But I think the kind of hit that can come through because of the deferment of a majority of the section of their top line growth, that can take some play. Ideally, Sumit had asked a question. Most IT companies have a low EPS rating, 60-85 area. Should we wait? See, ideally, what we suggest, Sumit, is that our EPS rating suggests a rating above 80 means that it has a good standing from a consistent earnings perspective. A rating of 60-65 means that the earnings rating is very, very volatile. So one quarter the earnings is reasonable, the other quarter is falls off. So that's not a very, very conclusive sign, because you're not really sure how these companies, they are very, very reactive earnings that happens from an environment perspective. Companies which are able to deliver consistent earning are companies which can ride out business cycles very, very well, right? So therefore, I think that norm is very critical and essential. Sneha had a question on Coromandel International. Sneha, I think again discussing IT, but for Coromandel, results are expected on Tuesday. It is a rural focused stock. Fertilizer is the theme at this point of time. The rural theme in terms of fertilizers and the expectations that these shops have opened up, farmers, distributors stacking up key products and their dominance in South India, healthy balance sheet, all that stands out very, very well for Coromandel International. But let's wait out for numbers on uh, on Tuesday. You had a follow-up, Sneha, on the chemical sector. Chemical, in my opinion, as a sector should do very, very well. And I'll touch very briefly because we're talking IT here. But again, what you're expecting from the chemical sector is that a lot of disruptions will take place post this pandemic. It had already started pre-pandemic because of effluent treatment norms on the Chinese front. Indian chemical companies actually have superior efficient effluent efficiencies. So the environment norms are being followed. Second, from a diversification and the global end user catering perspective, I think we are already doing that. And a lot of global players are actually looking at diversification outside the Chinese sphere, and that will become even more evident over the next few quarters, right? So I think I remain constructive on the chemical space, Sneha. Anil Wagh has a question. Indian IT sector has over dependence on North America and Europe. Both the markets are impacted by COVID. Do you feel recovery will take couple of years and couple of quarters? Anil, what you've seen in the past is, and I've discussed that in my opening commentary, that it will have an impact, right? And Q1, Q2, the coming next two quarters are the weakest quarters for the Indian IT perspective. Q Relatively because of the pandemic. However, I think they are one of the strongest in terms of the IT sector because of deal wins that come through, right? So Q3, Q4, you get a lot of deal wins from the counterparts. We've already seen that for a lot of IT companies, and they start executing those deals. So Q1, Q2 hold out, and even if there are wage hikes which happen in Q1 from the Indian context, they get offsetted because of the huge order wins. So typically, I think Q1 has an offsetting effect, but Q2 remains the strongest quarter for IT companies. This time around, it might be a little bit different because of the pandemic. So solely because of the pandemic, Q1, Q2, what I've repeated in my presentation, might turn out to be the weakest quarters for IT company, right? Q3, Q4 remain patchy. Why? Because Q3 is when Christmas is around for the American and the European sector, and there are a lot of furloughs, holidays as we call it. Therefore, I think there are working holidays, billing days on man hours not working on those days happen, and therefore I think the revenue drops. Q4 is where spending starts happening for IT companies, and that has remained extremely robust so far. Yes, there is over dependence, as I said, apart from this point, but largely I think as you are seeing, I think a lot of innovation and competition in terms of computerization, cloud computing, IoT, still is a transition phase for a lot of IT companies in the West. And a lot of deal wins will keep on happening. And as I said, as an example, the 200 billion in terms of the cloud is a glaring example. For the domestic space also, I think it is extremely critical because a lot of companies here will also start looking out. So I think apart from that, I think a lot of the Asian peers will also start looking out for automizing and optimizing their processes from a digital perspective. So I think it should turn back very, very strongly, in my opinion, Q3 onwards, Adil, for the sector as well. Yeah, so Yadavji has a question on SBI. Yadavji, as I said, I am doing, as I said, an exhaustive one on banking in the coming week. So I think I'll leave it for that, right? So please drop in your mails. I think I've seen a few people drop in their mails. I've given you the brief for the mid-cap IT space, your individual companies at play. But I'll give you a complete overlay in terms of these individual stocks from all the parameters that we look for. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure speaking to all you guys. Be safe, be healthy. I'll see you around next Saturday. Thanks, Ita.